Welcome to the JOHNiVERSE. We're live here. North Mile, Beverly Hills, whatever you want to call it. There we go. Not too formal, right? Oops. All right, welcome in. Gonna do some morning coffee and some news. You guys want? No, we're gonna go a little relaxed, but for you guys, you are YouTube, so look at that. A little extra on the tie. Welcome in. JOHNiVERSE Live. We're gonna do a little coffee, a little morning news. See what's up with you guys. Welcome in. We got big news all around in the JOHNiVERSE and elsewhere. What's up with you guys? Feel free to pipe in. Coffee. I love my coffee. Got coffee in the morning. Coffee in the evening. Coffee at 4 in the morning. It's starting to sound like too much coffee. Coffee. Welcome in. Let's see. I'm going to check out the news. Watch a man read the news. Is this modern entertainment? Some say it is. Some insist it is. How's your day going? Let me know in the comments. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the JOHNiVERSE. Check out the news. Having some morning coffee. What's up with you guys? This is a comments-based thing. I'm reading the news. What's up, everybody? Reading the news. Seeing people's views. What do we got? What's on your mind? I'm sitting here in Beverly Hills doing nothing. But what are you doing? What are you doing? Welcome in, everybody. I'm having some coffee, checking the news. What are you guys up to? Uh-oh, we had conservatives block Trump's bill. That's a whole thing. What's up with you guys? What's up, Rosie? Welcome in. I'm here in Beverly Hills, reading the news, checking stuff out. What's on your guys' mind? Where you guys at? How's your weather? Yeah, a little winter said hi. Welcome in, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. We're getting this Friday rolling. This is really just about getting the good vibes rolling on a Friday. Last night I was at a very important creator's house. Oh, no, I'm doing pretty good. It was actually a creator's mansion in the Hollywood Hills. It used to be a place where Bieber left, and they said it was the Phase House, if you know the Phase House. I'm not familiar with the Phase House. And then there was something else there, too. But it's like this 5-story mansion in the Hollywood Hills, right next to the reservoir. And I guess Justin Bieber lived there early in his career. He lived there, which is pretty cool. I mean, if you go to a place where the Biebs is at. What's up with you guys? Do you guys do coffee in the morning? What's up with you? Are you doing coffee? We should do that more dramatic. We should be like, are you doing coffee? Don't get near the screen. That's what people are thinking. Hell yeah. Like and subscribe, everybody. We're going to get this ball rolling. Thanks, Rosie. We got a lot of fun times ahead. Got a lot of fun media to make. If you haven't seen my videos, I've got a bunch of funny I have a bunch of funny videos. They're ridiculous. I'm a ridiculous person. That's kind of the idea. Just if you haven't met me, LA native, graduated from West Point, the military academy, flew Black Hawk helicopters, helped plan a war. Then I got out and went into stand-up comedy, and eventually ended up in a chicken suit on Ready to Drive. That old story. Anyway, my mom was a model and an actress, and so I got like a half beautiful face. So then I can just use it for making funny things, for making merriments. What's on your guys' mind on this Friday? What are you guys looking at? What's up with you? In the comments, like what are your hopes and dreams for the weekend? Let's get those going in the comments. Let's get some manifesting going in the comments for you guys. What are you looking to do this weekend? Obviously, rich and famous. That's my thing. That's what I'm going for. What are you going for? Uh-oh. Yeah, it's a big deal with the it's a big deal here with the Trump bill, because the Republicans voted it down. Now it's going to be a while before they got to come back and get it together, which they got to do. They got to do. That's the thing they got to do. What's up with you guys? What are you doing on the skill and magic trick? Boom. Yeah, so I'm here in LA, and we got some decent weather rolling in this weekend. And what else we got going? What do you guys got going on in your weekends? Oh, you're from Liverpool. Magical fluid process. Yeah, what's the weather like in Liverpool? Hopefully it's good. I hope it's good. Maybe we'll get some jokes going here. You know, I've written a few jokes in my day. Who knows? Maybe. Keep this thing stringing along. Oh, you translate. Rosie's translating. Well, that's fine. Well, I'm flattered. I'm flattered that you would bother to translate anything. Let's see what we got here. Some funny. I'd never let another man rob me of my dignity. I can do that just fine myself. What's the most common owl found in the UK? What is the most common owl found in the UK? Is that a setup for a joke? I mean, when it comes to owls, I just think barn owl. A teat? Oh, okay. A teat owl. Okay. So I have this idea for a show. You guys tell me if you like this show idea. So the idea for the show is that, like, it's a court show, and we get these real court cases, and we should probably use like small claims courts, like small, like not murder, just like normal, like people's court kind of stuff. And we get these cases, and then we have dogs reenact them. That's your best gag, a Tito. And then we call it dog law. And then we have our dog court. No, we call it law dogs. Yeah, we have law. It's like called law dogs. And so it's just like there's a dog judge and there's a dog attorneys and dog like plaintiffs and defendants. And then they go to court and then we reenact all these court cases. And then we do it straightforward, but it's just with dogs. This is law dogs. Like, Your Honor, woof, woof. It's like, I approach the bench, only for good, dog, woof. So my client here is entitled to restitution. He was hanging up drywall in Lancaster, and he's like, you look over the dog. His dog's like in overalls or something, and then he's like, I don't know, Your Honor. Oh, you're living in Czech, but you're from Turkey. Oh, that's cool. I've been to both places. I like both. I bet the Czech Republic would like law dogs. Just dogs doing the law. Yeah, so we do that. What about a restaurant with horses? Would you go to a restaurant where you could party with horses? You know, you sit down, it's like a chain restaurant, but there's horses hanging out, and you just party with them. There's party horses. Where does a bee go when it's sick? We don't know magical fluid process. Where does a bee go when it's sick? You tell me. You tell the class. Waspital. Yeah, that's a good one. Hopefully they don't get discriminated against. They're like, what do we have here? Another bee? What? We're a waspital. Don't they read the fucking signs? Jesus, bloody hell, mate. Why are they bringing all these bees into the waspital? Yeah, canine court. Yeah, canine court. Law dogs, canine court. See? I like it. Okay, bye, Rosie. It was fun having you. Have fun in the Czech Republic. Remember, if you're a bee and you get injured, you can go to the hospital. What do you think about the idea of making a 100,000 year monument? Do you think you could design one? Do you think you could design a monument that would last 100,000 years? Everybody say bye to Rosie. Bye, Rosie. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by the JOHNiVERSE live stream. The piano player of the Muppets must be the judge. Oh, Ralph the dog. Whole lot of Rosie going on. Yeah, we get Ralph. Is it Ralph or Rolf? I forget. Ralph the dog. Yeah, if we could get him. Canine court. Be sick. He'd be a pretty big get, I gotta say. What's up, Dennis from Sweden? Welcome in. I'm on Miracle Mile, right next to Beverly Hills, here in usually sunny and 70 LA. So welcome in. Just reading some news, checking some stuff out. Doesn't seem to be like a whole lot of shaking going on. It's like what's going on in Sweden and Sweden. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? I mean, I know it's Dutch. That's Goldfinger, but we're here in Sweden. It's a very nice here in Sweden. It's very far north, but that's all right. Just leave us alone. Sweden is a mess. Yeah, why is Sweden a mess? Couldn't be more of a mess than Gaza. I'm reading the news right now. They just it's like a it's like a killing buffet in Gaza. Like instead of a buffet, they're just like, hey, would you like to wake up and like, who'd you like to kill today? They're like, oh, some women, some children, whatever you got. I'll just kill whoever. That's exactly what you sound like. I know. It's eerie, isn't it? It's eerie when you hear yourself back from a master linguist. Welcome to the Johnverse. If you're new here, like, subscribe. I've got a whole bunch of videos. I got thousands of videos. I got primarily known for my comedy videos. I'm also the Chicken Man. You'll never see me and the Chicken Man in the same place. And I have a lengthy philosophy series. If you're into philosophy, the philosophy series has over 100 episodes. So, if you're into the deeper questions, that's a good series. Surprised you're imbibing the news, John. You know, you shouldn't be, because so a lot of people don't on my YouTube. A lot of people don't know this, but on TikTok during lockdown, I was the number one, the numero uno newscaster, satirical news guy, and on TikTok I had 40,000 followers, and that series got like 35 million views, and it was news of the news coming at you. What? MK Ultra free, and I would just mess with the news like during all lockdown, because I was like super anti-vax, anti-government, because I'm a former Army officer and I worked in a top secret position back in the day. So I already knew they were going to try to kill us. So I was like, when they tried, I was like, oh, well, I should probably make fun of it, as a survival mechanism. And it did work. And so, yeah, now I always keep up on the news. I have to. It's like burned into my brain. And when I read the news, I read like 10 to 12 different news sites. Yeah, you're not vaxxed. You're still, exactly. No, we were right. The people who were skeptical of it and did not get vaccinated were correct. And if you look at any of the stats from the National Health Services of either Britain or Australia, or really anybody, for like the post-COVID years, I mean, we're on YouTube, so I don't know if I can tell you the results, but let me put it this way: like, at no point have I looked at the stats and been like, "Oh man, I should go get a COVID shot." Like, really, and then like, what happened? Like, because so I was in LA and COVID hit, and I was like, you know what? Pretty sure this is I'm pretty sure this is BS. But what I'll do is I'll give it 2 weeks. They said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, so I was like, okay, I'll give it 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, what I did was I went down to Skid Row in LA, in downtown, because my theory was that if it was real, because if you remember in the beginning, they were showing us all these films from China where everybody's just like dropping like flies. They're like, oh, everybody's dying. Look at all these Chinamen. They're all dying. So I was like, all right. So I went down to Skid Row after 2 weeks, and I met with the homeless people. And I was like, look, if I go down to Skid Row and there's like a shitload of dead people, like a shitload of homeless people dead, then it's real. And if there aren't, then it's bullshit. So I did. So I went down to Skid Row after like 2 or 3 weeks, and I talked to them, and they were like, yeah, everything's fine. Like, some people got sick, but like nobody died. And they were the ones telling me, they're like, yeah, dude, they're like, this is the government. And I was like, well, if there's one thing you can trust homeless people for, you have to talk to enough of them, because some of them are bonkers, but some of them are just free, right? Like some just like because of existential circumstances, they just are no longer in society, and so they have this permanent position of keeping watch on society because they don't trust it anymore for lots of good reasons. But in those types of circumstances, those are the people that you can kind of trust to give you a good clear vision of like, okay, is this really happening, or is this something that's like man-made? And so when I went and talked to the homeless people, like every one of them was like, yeah, this is all bullshit. This is all government crap. And so I was like, oh, okay, you know. So I guess I stood with the homeless people. You know, and then over time it became like really obvious. Because like if something, okay, like right now, like nobody has to give you an ad for vitamin C. Nobody has to get like aggressively get in your face today and tell you, you know what you really fucking need. And like the government like doesn't like has ads. They're like, you really have to get vitamin C today. Like da 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 da. Like if you don't get vitamin C, your neighbors are in danger, right? Like because everybody knows vitamin C is awesome for you, right? No one has to like get in your face about it and tell you to go get it. And it's like that with anything else. Nobody has to be like about stuff that like if you know to do it, if it's obvious, then people don't have to like get in your face. They don't have to be like, have you taken a shit today? Like you need to use the bathroom today. Like if you haven't used the bathroom today, like you're, da 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 da. it Yeah. So it's like your theory is it was a renewal of the citizenship contract. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good thing about America is we have a constitution. Unfortunately for you in the UK, you guys don't, and you guys should get one. Yeah, we have one, and that's always the fight. That's always the fight here is that there's factions of the government that don't want to honor the Constitution, and they find workarounds. But we don't have to like fight. We don't have to like renegotiate. We have one. It's just a matter of like if people are letting us use it. And obviously that like, and then like as it unfolded, it was just stupid. It's like our Congress gave themselves an exemption for the vaccine, and that should have been a giveaway. And then the pharmaceutical people gave themselves an exemption. They're like, oh yeah, we're not going to take it. So it's like, dude, when the Congress and the people that make the shot are like, oh yeah, we wrote in a legal exemption for ourselves, like, duh. Like, come on. There's still not an FDA approved shot on the market to this day. Like they still don't have enough clinical data trial. Like that hasn't been long enough for there to be an actual approved one. They're still on the market with an emergency authorization use or whatever it's called. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm happy I didn't get that because if you did get it, then you have to deal with all this new information coming forward about what it's really doing and all that stuff and like whatever. So we did a good job there, magical fluid process. Yeah, we skipped out and not a big deal. Oh, now I'm reading on BBC that Ari Aster's new film called Eddington, and Ari Aster makes great horror movies. He made Midsommar, Midsummer, and Beau is Afraid, and Hereditary, and I think one other one. His new one's about the pandemic divides. They say it's once again set to shock with this surreal, gory western featuring Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal, which is premiering at the Cannes Film Festival. Ari Aster's first two films, Hereditary and Midsummer, were adored by fans of so-called elevated horror, but his third film, Beau is Afraid, was more divisive. Even as fans admitted that Aster's psychedelic therapy session was on the self-indulgent side. It was really good, though. Let's see, what are you talking about? If a nation's currency was to change, then the resident citizens have to agree to the new terms. Not in the U.S., they don't. No, let's see. What do you know that is not a thought or a sense per se? So in the U.S., like the way the Constitution's written, the Congress has all the Congress has delegated the rights in the U.S. to run the economy, which is part of the reason that most people believe that's why the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional, because in the Constitution it specifically says Congress makes laws and runs the money and the currency, so they can run it however they want. Like that's in there, and so if once they take the power back, at some point they have to get rid of the Federal Reserve and like run it themselves. And when they do, I mean, the U.S. Congress can do whatever they want. I mean, they can run it on the dollar, they can run it on crypto, they can run it, they can tie it to gold, they can tie it to silver, they can tie it to moon rocks, they can tie it to U.S. military strength, which is what we're doing right now. They do whatever they want. I mean, really, the last like 50, 60 years, the U.S. dollar has been really tied to it's really the petrodollar. It's the petrodollar and the guns dollar. And we've seen the consequences of what happens when you tie the value of your currency to guns and oil. You get this particular world. So that's got to be taken care of. That's got to be decoupled. Which people smarter and more powerful than I are doing. Working on that. Do I know how new money is created? Yeah, in the current system, it's just fractional banking. So they have what they call like strategic drawing rights so there's in the Western world there's the Bank of International Settlements. The Bank of International Settlements is the top bank. I think it's in Switzerland. I believe it's in Switzerland. And it's the top bank that lends out to the regional central banks. And the regional central banks each have regions. Like Europe has a regional central bank, like North America, South America, they each have regions. And those central banks give money out to their lending banks underneath them, and they have a whole series of like protocols and whatever, and that's the main part of the system. And they have nation states as their clients as well. So the U.S. is under that umbrella. So in that sense, the U.S. doesn't run its own economy. Like it doesn't run its own banking system, because the central banking system, which goes back to the Bank of International Settlements, does. And so within that system, they're not tied to anything. They're just all they do is generate interest rates and ins and outs. They don't have It's not tied to precious metals, it's not tied to a commodity. Ostensibly, like their system is tied to itself. It's like the stability of its own self is what keeps it going. And then like volume of trading, and basically just the idea that just like things are dependent. They've created dependency on their banking system, and they've made themselves too big to fail, made people dependent on it. And that's actually kind of like the value of their system at this point, because it's not tied to anything per se, because right now the world reserve currency is the dollar within their system, but before that it was the pound. And they can just arbitrarily change it. There's no real rules to it. So the whole thing is just kind of a scam. So I mean, at a minimum, it's a scheme. And when it's not working, and you see that it's just like being run by a handful of people who benefit from it, you can like move it into like the scam side. So yeah, basically within their system, they'll just say like, oh, we have the Bank of International Settlements will just make it up on their computer, basically like, oh, now we have like $1 trillion of like lending capital. And then as it goes down the chain, as they lend it out, they'll factorial it. They'll be like, oh, when it gets down to the regional bank, we'll 10x that because we can. And then they have rules like, oh, well, there's derivative financing and da 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 da. Like as it goes down a level, and by the time it gets like a regional lending bank, and they're lending it out with interest and all the other stuff, it could be like 100x versus of those, like this initial made up capital lending amount from the top tier, and then like they're like lending it out and expecting interest back, and then really like at the end of the day, they're only like generation, like wealth generation is just coming like between the difference between what they're lending out, the interest rates of what they're lending out, and what they're coming back in, competing with inflation. And it's more looking like they're just running the whole system for asset accumulation anyway. Like they have these other partners that sort of have hacks into the system that aren't subject to these sorts of like economic factors. So it's almost become empirical. So here's the Ari Aster film. So they say, if Beau is Afraid seemed to be about Astor's own fears and neuroses, Eddington is about the more general fears and neuroses of the U.S. in the year 2020. The writer-director puts everything into his blackly comic modern Western, COVID-19 and online conspiracy theories, Black Lives Matter and white privilege, cult leaders and cryptocurrency. Even if you can't quite work out how to weave all of those subjects together, the film would probably have been better if it had been more focused and shorter, but Astor's deranged vision makes most directors seem timid in comparison. His central idea is that all of the U.S.'s most contentious talking points are squeezed into the tiny desert town of Eddington, New Mexico. Joaquin Phoenix stars as a shambling, barely competent sheriff, Joe, who likes to argue that none of these problems are here problems. Yes, the pandemic is terrible, and yes, the killing of George Floyd was a disgraceful crime, but they don't affect remote and dusty Eddington, so why should he wear a mask, and why should he put up with an anti-racism demonstration? Anyway, he has plenty of more personal aggravations to worry about. The town's mayor, Ted, Pedro Pascal, has signed a deal allowing a vast tech hub to be built nearby. Joe's wife, Louise, Emma Stone, has long-standing anxieties that may or may not be related to the mayor, and his mother-in-law, Dawn, Deirdre O'Connell, is obsessed by his own inadequacies as a sheriff and a husband. Joe's solution to his disgruntlement, which is as ill thought through as everything else he does, is to run against Ted as an anti-lockdown candidate in the imminent mayoral election. For a while, both the film and the sheriff ramble slowly and repetitively from place to place, from subject to subject, from genre to genre. Eddington is both a quirky lampoon of small-town politics and a feverish state-of-the-nation satire, and that can be a jarring combination. You watch it with a mixture of detached respect that Astor is ticking off issues ignored by so many films, gloom that he is so pessimistic about those issues, mild amusement at the eccentricity of it all, and frustration that he doesn't just find a plot and stick to it. Viewers may also experience a thrum of constant, headache-inducing stress, not because a particular character is in danger, but because almost all of the characters are so ignorant and antagonistic that it always feels as if a bleak situation is about to get disastrously worse. As he is shown in Beau is Afraid, Joker, You Were Never Really Here, and more, Phoenix is a master of being uncomfortable in his own skin, and the querulous sheriff he plays is sympathetic, even as his most wrong-headed, because he has a habit of making things worse for himself than everyone else. God, it just goes on and on with this review. Anyhow. Anyway, it's already Astor, so I'll probably go check it out. So, kind of a morning coffee boot up. Dude, we're going to call it on this one. I hope everybody's been having a good time. It's always good seeing you. And I hope you have a great day out there, everybody. Take care.